Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Marco DeRay Show, everybody. It is Monday, July 28th, the final week of July as our summer is coming to an end. Thanks for staying up to date on all the groundbreaking news across the country and, of course, around the world where the facts are facts and hard truths thrive. Please make sure you like, follow, and share the show with some friends. Please get it out there. I do appreciate that. That helps wake people up. And I appreciate it, as always, when you do so. Let's get ready for the best hour that radio has to offer. And let's begin today. I want to start off by talking about where we are in the world today, in which we live in 2025. Not just exclusively in America, but geopolitically as well. Of course, I can point to example after example in the United States, and of course the cultural unrest that we see now in our streets, the lawlessness that we see, the erosion of our Constitution, the decay of our once sacred institutions, and of course the decadence of our major cities. And then I look over to Europe, and I see it's on its deathbed right now. Nobody seems to care about the illegal invasion of the third worlders into their society. The low birth rates and the marriage rates of the West's white native population is chilling, and it should be. So what's been the response, I ask you? To bring in more people from the third world, of course, to make up for the loss of population. And as we see, few, if any, will assimilate. The illegals, I'm not talking about the immigrant populations, but few, if any, will assimilate. Few, if any, have any respect for the existing culture, the law, the language. And everyone just seems fine with it. Where's the outrage? Where is the outrage, I ask you, of the people of the West, that their damn good-for-nothing politicians have sold them out to the New World Order? And again, you see it begin to happen a little here and there, but not where it needs to be. You see a protest in Austria. You see a protest in the UK. Well, why are we allowing these scumbags to represent us when they should be thrown in jail for treason? Then again, I say to myself, I don't you see that these morons, that they're going to try to replace you if you don't get your act together? And again, it's no better in America. We have the nominations of Zoran Mamdani, Omar Fatah. They're both open communists running for mayoralships. You have ill-in-the-head Omar, Jasmine Crockett, whose IQ is equal to that of the surface temperature of East Antarctica in the winter. Rashida Tlaib, who never miss a moment to spend on America. Do you ever notice that? They never say one positive thing about America. Not one thing. And of course, along with squad member and her leader, AOC, who's now worth something like $20 to $25 million, just after being in Congress for 6 years on a $174,000 salary. Yeah, you do the math on that. Now, the problem is you'll have to do Obama Common Core math, right? That way it'll, make sense to you. Yeah, they pretend to care. They pretend to, they give you the act. They throw out all the altruistic values they can throw at you. Meanwhile, they get rich and you get the shaft. She learned very well from the commie Bernie Sanders, didn't she? The old commie red Bernie Sanders taught her well, and all of them, by the way. They all admire this guy, this moron, this schmuck, this do-nothing his whole life. Didn't have a damn job till he ran for mayor of Burlington at the age of 40. And of course, all of whom hate this nation and they want to destroy it. They learn well from their communist masters, don't they? And yeah, we have some Republicans in there too. They'll do anything for the state of Israel. Of course, nothing for their districts or their states or their cities. Israel needs aid, boom, it's there. Israel needs aid to arms to, bomb other nations, it's there. Without blinking an eye, it's there. Meanwhile, your jobs went abroad. And you just get more and more people dumped in your country from the third world, don't you? We just had that lunatic from Florida, Maria Salazar, Republican woman, speaking in Spanish to a crowd, pushing for this mass amnesty bill to get illegal aliens and then to stay in the country, along with that dunce from New York, Mike Lawler. These people are awful. We were promised mass deportations, weren't we? That's what Trump ran on. Secure the border, which he did, but also mass deportations, not mass amnesty. That hasn't begun yet. Now, minus, of course, we see the very, very bad illegals that they keep catching nonstop. But that doesn't mean you, and by the way, that doesn't mean you hate people of another race, another religion, from another nation or creed or whatever you seem to think of. And again, if you think I do, you're mistaken. I get along with everybody that's here legally, that wants to be here, that are good people. But there is an agenda out there. And America's demise is the front and center of it, right in front of your eyes, folks. You're seeing it right in front of your eyes being destroyed. And they've done a great job, too. I got to give it to them. They've done a great job. Placing man versus woman to destroy marriage, black versus white, citizen versus illegal. And, of course, immigrant, they add that in there, too. They try to mix the two. Christian versus Muslim, conservative versus liberal. Stealing your purchasing power. We're now $36.2 trillion in debt as our dollar crumbles. And, of course, we just keep adding to it. Why not? Why not? We're so far in the hole already. Why not? Just keep adding to it. Raise that debt ceiling. Our dollar's worth about, what, 2, maybe 3 pennies of its original value? Thanks to the creation of the Federal Reserve, which is illegal, by the way, owned by the Rothschild family. Oh, yeah. We have 2 out of control wars right now in this country happening. In Israel, of course, in the Middle East, and of course in Ukraine and Russia, that we were promised would be over on day 1. We were told it was going to be solved on day 1 of the Trump presidency. We were told this. And we saw Donald Trump as a man of peace. Right? He didn't have any wars his first presidency. We thought, he'll solve it. Great negotiator. Boom, it'll be done. And where are we now? We're sending more arms to both nations. It never seems to end. And we also have money for these wars, don't we? We always have money for wars. Just not if you're, poor, if you're struggling, or if you're in a place where there's a natural disaster or wildfire of any sort. No, we can't seem to find that money. There's no money for that. You can go to hell if you're in any of those situations. But we always have money for foreign wars, which are banker wars. Nobody ever told you that, but that's what they are. And they get a lot of people rich. Not you or I, but they get lots of people rich. We now have the head of the American Teachers Federation, by the way, Randy Weingarten, who hates Christians, by the way. Just wanted to share that with you. Aligning with the World Economic Forum to produce curriculum. You remember them, right? The World Economic Forum, Klaus Schwab. You'll own nothing and love it. You won't own a car. You won't be able to eat meat, so you can reduce your carbon footprint. That Klaus Schwab? Yeah, all coming to your kids now in public school curriculum. The World Economic Forum is globalism meeting communism in one, folks. I've told you this before. My disgraced Governor Gavin Newsom was once a student of the World Economic Forum, right? Yeah. Not shocking, right? Look at California now. Look where California's gone. It's a complete failed state, sadly enough. And it's a beautiful state, by the way. There's many great people here, but it's a failed state economically. And again, Tulsi Gabbard, another one. Oh, you thought she was great as DNI, right? The director of the National Intelligence. Right? Yeah, she was of it too. And of course, Bill, standing at the gates of hell, was one of the first graduates, along with Angela Merkel of Germany, once Chancellor of Germany. Now, it's no shock that the guy investing in, fake vaccines, creating fake lab-grown meats, which is completely disgusting, by the way, buying up American farmland, putting now appeal, whatever you want to say it, now on your fruits and vegetables laced with God knows what. We don't even know. And of course, has always said that he wants to lower the global population, is in bed with globalism. Not a shock there, right? But, I ask you, my listeners, where are we as a society today in America? We have no cohesion. We have no solidarity any longer. It seems no matter who you vote for, you always get John McCain in office, doesn't it? The inflation of our currency, more national debt, and that bubble's about to burst. Endless wars that have nothing to do with us for the last 24 years. More illegals, no borders, less good-paying jobs, higher cost of living, higher healthcare costs for less quality, of course. Higher grocery prices that exploded under Obama and then, of course, Joe Biden. Crappy public and higher education, if it can even be called education any longer. Crimes in our cities, lawlessness, no one held accountable. No single-family housing for any available decent price. And what is left now are homes being bought up only for rent only or built for rent only. Bought and paid for by BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard. Right? You know who they are. They're buying up all this land, buying all this housing. So it's going to become one big feudal system real soon. And then, of course, we have the stable coins, which I talked about last week with you, masquerading as a digital dollar, an independent currency, which it isn't. It's another form of central bank digital currency. And, of course, no cut to government spending. That's all we seem to get, folks. Oh, every cycle, that's all we seem to get. Don't we? Bomb this country, bomb that country. Hey, there's less for you. That's for you and your kids. In other words, it's meet the new boss, same as the old boss. It's what the WHO told us so long ago. We seem to be seeing this time in, time again, don't we? But we're told we're winning. At least that's what the conservative influencers on Instagram tell me, right? I look at some of these schmucks. Oh, we're winning. Wow. No tax on tips. Wow. Get excited. It's unbelievable. Now, does this mean we're finished as a nation, folks? As a people? That has yet to be written. But it certainly doesn't have to be. If the patriots begin to wake up, realize they need to take back their land, their country, their constitution, their currency, take control of their family, stop buying into the BS. Because it gets old really fast, doesn't it, folks? It gets old really fast that we find ourselves in these situations. And that's all I really have to say on where we are as a nation right now. But it's been bothering me for a while now. I see this day in and day out. And yes, while we have some good breakthroughs of this administration, I look around and I see things that I'm just shocked about. I can't believe they're happening. Yes, I'm glad Donald Trump shut the border down. I'm happy. I'm happy that the border crossings are down 99%. That no one's illegally just flowing in the country right now. I'm happy about that. I'm happy we're getting tax cuts and tax breaks. I'm glad we're not taxing people to death as much anymore. But there's so much more out there we need to do work with, folks. And largely it comes from our culture. This article I'm going to pull up for us first is in Truth Press. And maybe some of you have seen it right now. And it seems to be making its way over the news I saw today. 2 white people beaten unconscious in wild Cincinnati street brawl. Now, this is ridiculous on so many levels, but it goes back to where we are as a culture. Why are we having people attacked? Again, 2 white people attacked by a mob of both black and white people, mostly black young men, in plain view of everybody. And nobody does anything. No one seems to care. That seems to be our mantra. Everyone sees it. Nobody seems to care, though. No one's going to do anything about it. The Cincinnati police have since launched a criminal investigation after a brutal mob-style beating in downtown Cincinnati left 2 white victims, a man and a woman, seriously injured on Saturday morning. The assault took place at the intersection of West 4th Street and Elm Street near this Cincinnati music festival. It seems to be they were attending. Now, the video footage is shocking, of course. You see all these people standing around a white man, a bald white guy. And all of a sudden, this fight breaks out, right? Now, I've, since searched this, since I saw it last evening. And I said to myself, this is ridiculous that this is happening. But then I saw another little bit of footage. And it appeared the older bald guy, this is what's being alleged from this one piece of footage, that he struck one of the other people first, and then all of a sudden it turned into this big brawl. Now, I find it odd, though. Why are they all crowded behind this guy, though, at first? That's what I don't understand. And again, I'm seeing one set of footage. We're seeing the final set of footage, of course, of them in the streets being just brutally attacked, of course. We don't know what happened originally. Why are they around this guy in the first place? Are they accosting him? Are they saying something to him? Do they want to fight him? Did he do something to them? I don't know. But again, it just seems a little bit odd to me that they're attacking this guy. They attack another white gentleman, too. He gets knocked down. And this woman who didn't seem to do anything to anybody gets sucker punched right in the face and is, her head bounced off the pavement. She's out. When she's out, bleeding from the mouth out. She didn't do anything to anybody. She's trying to help the guy up. And, of course, a woman comes behind her, starts attacking her. Then this guy just clocks her right in the face. I mean, just a straight punch right to the face. And she's out. Where are the police? Where is everybody? And, of course, we have everyone recording it, of course. Right? They got to get their hits on Instagram, don't they? Or social media. But the video that's out now, that you'll probably see eventually, the citizen video is what it's called, shows a group of young black men and females surrounding an older bald white man. Yes, I just said that to you. Who is, again, sucker punched from behind, then repeatedly punched, kicked, and stomped on while on the ground by this group of people. Laughing and shouting can be heard as the man tries to get up, only to be, collapsed in the middle of the street again. A white woman appears to check on the victim, then is brutally attacked from behind and knocked unconscious after by being punched in the face by another black male. Blood can be seen coming from her mouth as she hits the pavement. And of course, the police chief is shocked about this, that this behavior would happen. So, I ask you, where are we as a people? That a group of people would just, again, if this guy hit one guy, and they got into it, and that was over, that's one thing. I'm looking at one of the pictures here, and I watched the video. You have like 10 people stomping on this guy while he's on the ground. It's ridiculous. Why are they attacking this woman if it's an issue with just this guy? Then why are they attacking the other gentleman who they had knocked down to the ground and hit in the face? Are they need arrest made? Or is there any call for no racism in the streets? Of course not. Of course not. J.D. Vance was asked about this. This is what he said earlier today. Take a listen.
There was a group of people who attacked a couple folks on the street in Cincinnati. Senator Bernie Moreno, some others have spoken out about it, have been critical of it.
Okay, yes. So what I saw, and I haven't seen the full context, but what I saw is a mob of lawless thugs beating up on an innocent person, and it's disgusting. And I hope every single one of those people who engage in violence is prosecuted to the full extent of the law. And they will be. They will be so long as law enforcement in the state of Ohio takes their job seriously. I know Dave Yost cares a lot about these things. But yeah, I actually, you're right. Bernie did send me a clip of this, and we talked a little bit about it. I don't know the full context. I don't know how the fight started. But the one part that I saw that was really gruesome is you had a grown man who sucker punched a middle-aged woman. And where I come from, at least, when you have a grown man who sucker punches a middle-aged woman, that person ought to go to jail for a very long time. And frankly, he's lucky there weren't some better people around, because they would have handled it themselves. But if they're not going to handle it, the cops in Cincinnati, the law enforcement, you've got to prosecute people. We've had way too much lawlessness on the streets of great American cities. How many of you all have wanted to go to downtown Akron or downtown Canton or downtown Columbus for a meal, but you're worried because the local authorities in these big cities have allowed lawlessness to run wild?
Yeah, there it is. Lawlessness running wild. There you go. Doesn't seem to end, does it, folks? So what do we do now? Do we not go to music festivals in big cities? I don't know what the answer is here. I really don't. Then again, as we find out more about how this came to, again, I'm reading what's being posted on social media. I don't know if that's true or not. But I did see the footage of the white gentleman swing at one of the gentlemen that are, again, they're all crowded around him. Again, why are you all crowding around this guy? And then it just turns into this big brawl. I don't know, maybe that guy slapped him in the face first. He slapped him back after he said a few words. We get this footage and we see it, we think we know everything about it. We don't. We don't. Why was that woman hit? Did she do anything? Why was that other gentleman hit in the face and thrown on the ground? Is there any tweet from Donald Trump right now saying we're going to get to the bottom of this? That they're going to be charged for a hate crime? No, of course not. Why would there be? Why would there be? It's nice, though, that J.D. Vance acknowledged this, as he should. We'll see what happens, folks. I mean, also we can pray on. We can see what happens. We can see if any of these people get arrested who are, again, stomping a man in the middle of the street while people are cheering them on. Not a good thing. Not a good thing at all. This is the New York Post here. This is actually a positive video. Marine veteran Derek Perry is now praised for confronting Michigan Wal-Mart mass stabber in dramatic showdown. This was actually something positive that took place after a horrible event, allegedly being stabbed by 11 people inside this Michigan store on Saturday night inside a Walmart. And again, cell phone footage shared on X. This brave man, a black man, former Marine, identified as Derek Perry, is seen yelling as the suspect is trying to leave, telling him to drop the weapon in the parking lot of this store in Traverse City, which is about 250 miles northwest of Detroit. And again, they apprehend this guy, holding him there until police arrive. He didn't shoot him, but he obviously confronts the guy, and the man's arrested. So a good guy with a gun saved more people, probably. This is what a real leader looks like, folks. This is what a real man does. And again, other people stepped in as well. There's about 3 other people around in the situation, is what I'm seeing right now from this video footage and the pictures here. But this is how normal people act. Not the crazed lunatic stabbing everybody who goes on a stabbing spree. But this is how a real man acts. He steps in. He doesn't take his phone out and start recording and start laughing and post it on social media so he can get thousands of hits. He steps in to help his fellow man. And again, these men that are involved in this, that helped lead to this arrest, this is a good thing. This is people that care about their community, care about the safety of others. We didn't see that in Cincinnati, did we? But we saw it here at this Walmart in Traverse City, Michigan. Authorities have identified this suspect as Bradford James Gilley, 42. And I saw on Fox this morning, they're alleging that this man is insane. He's had run-ins with the police before, that he has some sort of mental illness, of course. But he now faces charges of terrorism and 11 counts of assault with intent to murder following the stabbing spree that took place over the weekend. His victims range from 29 years of age to 85, 6 of them being over 60, all of whom are expected to survive. It's obviously a tragic event that took place. And again, in a local Walmart, you have a lunatic coming out there. He has a history of arrests, drug offenses, vandalism. You're trying to say he's now insane, though. So again, why do we have a guy who's insane? This is my question, though. And apparently, if he can't even stand trial for insanity, is what I think they're trying to say now, because he's so out of it, whether it be from drugs or mental illness or whatever, why is he being let out in the streets? Why is a lunatic like this being let out on the streets that can go out and cause this type of harm to people? It makes no sense, folks. We see this time and time again. Homeless people attacking other people. Nothing's done about it. Again, like I said in my monologue this morning, nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. It's business as usual. Same old, same old. Let's move on to the next thing. So what, some more people can get injured like this? But here's one of the very rare, not a rare case, but here's a case where the good guy with a gun saves people, apprehends this lunatic until the police showed up. There we go. There we go. So a good man here, a very good man. God bless him. God bless the other men who stood up and made sure that this man was apprehended, didn't hurt any more people, and waited till police came to arrest this I don't even know what to call him. He's not a man. Shouldn't even be out in society. Shouldn't be out in society. There we go. But again, we say, oh, guns only cause violence. No, guns help people as well. And this guy saw that he has no match for, obviously, the gentleman holding the gun, and he became a, knife-wielding maniac. And then, of course, when he was confronted by real men, he stood down, was arrested. So, very happy this Marine, Derek Perry, came out there and, of course, saved many people that day, probably. So, congrats to him. Congrats to the other brave men that stayed with him and surrounded this piece of human garbage. And hopefully the book will get thrown in and we'll see what happens with that case as time goes on. So Donald Trump made a really what it seems to be a historic deal with the EU just over the weekend here. Is what I'm seeing from this. And I'm really happy to see that we're making progress in terms of these types of deals. I like stuff like this. And he struck the biggest deal ever with the EU, it seems to be like. Europeans will buy $750 billion in U.S. energy and also invest $600 billion in America. So we're seeing, Japan with the $550 billion deal. We're seeing the European Union now, $600 billion while purchasing $750 billion worth of our oil. We're making big moves here right now. I think it's going to formulate into something good eventually. But as I've said to you before, they need to invest in manufacturing in the United States. That's what I want to see. I want to see them invest in good paying jobs. I don't want to see them investing in garbage. So the tariffs on many American exports will drop to 0. That means everything coming to the United States from the EU. And duties on most European goods coming into the U.S. will raise to 15%. So, here was Trump speaking about it just yesterday. Let's take a listen.
European Union is going to agree to purchase from the United States $750 billion worth of energy. $750 billion worth of energy. They are going to agree to invest into the United States $600 billion more than they're investing already. So they're investing a large amount of money. You know what that amount of money is. It's very substantial, but they're going to invest an additional $600 billion.
So my thing is, if we got them to reduce their tariffs down to 0, why are we putting tariffs on their goods coming to America, though? Now, I know some of you are saying, Gervais, what are you talking about? That's also going to raise revenue. We got to pay this debt down. I agree we need to pay this debt down. One of the things that he said, though, that was a little bit shocking to me, and he said this, and I said to myself, okay. He said, we need to make sure that the balance is even now. And I said to myself, the balance is even now? What do you mean the balance is even now? And this goes back to my original point. The reason why we have a trade deficit, folks, is not because the United States is being ripped off by the EU. Quite the opposite. The reason why the EU is sending us so much more in terms of revenue and gaining revenue that we're giving to the EU is simply because we're not producing enough. That's what it comes down to. This is why I said if they're going to invest $600 billion in the United States, they should be manufacturing jobs where we're refining, where we're creating, where we're developing these raw materials or what have you. And then we ship that product overseas to them because we're making it here. So not only are we making products here, which will be cheaper for us, we're not reliant on the EU or Japan or China or whomever. It doesn't matter. The whole reason behind these trade deficits, especially with China, we have a massive, I think it's $300 and some odd billion. It's not because China's ripping us off, folks. Quite the opposite. It's because China is producing that much more of goods that we want here in the United States, that we don't produce ourselves. That's why you see the trade imbalances. That's why there's a trade imbalance in the EU. That's why you're seeing that. So again, I don't know why we're keeping the tariff on. Someone's got to pay that 15%. Is it going to be the businesses? If it's going to be the businesses, okay, not a big deal. 15% doesn't seem like that much. Over time, it gets to be something, depending on what it is. So you buy something that comes here and it's worth $10. Well, once it gets here, it's got that 50% tariff now thrown on it. So that $10 good that you might buy at a Walmart or wherever you buy it, that's now $11.50. So is the store or the company going to be paying that $1.50 difference? Or is the consumer now? Folks, you got to remember, the only thing a tariff is a tax. That's all it is. A tariff is only a tax. That's what they are. Okay? And, again, we see these things happen. We see a great deal like this, but then we see that we're keeping these tariffs on. And I say to myself, why are we keeping these tariffs on if they would agree to take their tariffs off? That's why I'm confused about. Because someone has to pay that difference, folks. And again, as time goes on, is what we have seen, we see that the consumer is usually given that when it becomes inflation, whether it be a tariff, the consumer is the one that pays it. In the end, again, President Trump was asked about this. He says, what concessions are you making? Listen to what he had to say.
What are the U.S. concessions? What is the U.S. giving up in the deal, if anything?
So the starting point was an imbalance, a surplus on our side and a deficit on the U.S. side. And
again, that's because, as I've said this time and time again, it's because we're not producing enough to send to the EU that they are sending back to us. We are buying more from them than they're buying from us. And that's why there's this indifference. If I sell you $100 worth of goods every week, and I only buy 10 from you, it's not because I'm ripping you off. You're just buying more from me than otherwise. That's what it is. That's all it is, folks. Right? I mean, it's as clear as mud. Nobody's ripping off the United States. But again, this mantra, well, we want to, rebalance this trade relation. We want to try to even it out. Then we've got to get on our manufacturing. So all this investment, this $600 billion, this $550 billion, the other money that other countries are investing in the United States, that these great negotiations we've had, thanks to Donald Trump, good on him, we need to invest in manufacturing. That's what we need to invest in. And I'm glad we're selling. We have enough oil that we can send it abroad and make a lot of money off. I'm happy about that. I want to see our oil prices drop even more. That's what I would like to see. But this whole, we want to rebalance everything. The only way you rebalance it is if you start manufacturing yourself. You stop buying more than what you're taking in. That's where the trade imbalance comes from. It has nothing to do with being ripped off, folks.
And we wanted to rebalance the trade relation, and we wanted to do it in a way that trade goes on between the two of us across the Atlantic, because the two biggest economies should have a good trade flow between us. And I think we hit exactly the point we wanted to find. Rebalance, but enable trade on both sides, which means good jobs on both sides of the Atlantic, means prosperity on both sides of the Atlantic, and that was important for us.
Okay. All right. So, again, someone's got to pay that 15%, folks. If it's, again, the person selling, okay, they take a little hit, whatever. But if it goes to the American people, you're now paying 15% more on anything you're getting from the EU, whatever that might be. So, get ready for that, folks. Get ready for that. That'll be fun for you. This next article is in the Federalist. I thought this was, again, an interesting article. I wanted to read it to you. And it says here, American birth rates dropped to levels of civilizational suicide. And I touched upon this in my monologue today. It says here that not only is the United States failing to create enough new Americans through birth, but it's also failing to turn immigrants into Americans in any meaningful sense. Now, Pat Buchanan said this almost 2 decades ago, but he said that first world nations are dying. They face a moral crisis, not only because something is happening in the third world, but because of what is not happening at home and in the homes of the first world. So I said to you that the marriage rates in America are down. The birth rate is obviously down in America, and as well as Europe, by the way. And again, was not and still is not happening is childbearing. We're seeing less and less of it. So Buchanan was referring to fertility rates, which have been on the decline for decades. Why have they been on the decline for decades, I ask you? Well, we look at things like inflation. Right? We see the destruction of our dollar, the devaluing of the dollar. It costs more. Back in the 1940s, 1950s, 1960s, Dad can go out and work and he would provide for the entire family. 2, 3 kids, right? That's all changed now. That's all changed now, folks. It's becoming more and more difficult to just provide for yourself, even in many of these situations. It's getting more difficult to buy a single-family home, piece of land, pay for the insurance on the house, pay for the down payment on the house, pay for the property tax on the house, pay for all the necessities, buy a vehicle, buy the food for 4, 5 people. One person can't do that anymore in many regards, unfortunately. So we ask, why does that happen? Well, again, I look to things like our financial sector. I look at the destruction of our dollar. Why is this happening? Why else wouldn't people be going out and, again, getting married, settling down, keeping a good paying job, having children? Because those jobs are going away. I said this to you before. We started outsourcing jobs in the mid-1990s, right? Those good paying jobs where we were manufacturing. By the mid-1990s, they're going away thanks to William Jefferson Clinton, right? And, of course, we let, China in the World Trade Organization, so now these good-paying jobs go to China where they can outsource them to. So then to us for much cheaper. So we have cheaper things and, of course, no good-paying jobs. So we don't talk about things like how important family is or having a family anymore. That's all things of the past, right? Send the woman to the workforce. That's a much better idea, isn't it? Right, the same mantra, of course, from the feminists over the years since the 1960s with, the Gloria Steinems, the Sheila Muth Firestones, and all these other lunatic women, who told women, don't be mothers. No, don't do that. Well, go in the workforce, be your own boss, right? Those are all the things that have been put in women's head for the last 60 or so years. And of course, women bought onto it, and they start going to college now, right? They start getting jobs now. And it's not that women didn't have jobs before this, but more women, of course, would prefer to be a stay-at-home mother and raise the family and keep her house in order versus going to work for 8, 9, 10 hours a day. So we see this shift in, as I said, culture, right? But it's leading to this civilizational suicide now, with women having on average 1.6 children. But we need it to be over 2, at least over 2. Now, according to the Center for Disease Creation and Production data, birth rates have dropped for women aged 15, a little young, right, to 34 between 2023 and 2024, while rising for women 40 to 44. What's happening? People are settling down later in life. People are waiting to have kids. They're going throughout their whole careers now. They're starting a career, and then they're having kids much later on in life. Now, the general fertility rate, again, as you wait, which is going to be more difficult to have children, right? That's another problem as well. So maybe you have 1, 2 children at that point. but it's not enough to make up for the same demographic, is what I'm trying to tell you. The general fertility rate, which again is the number of births per 1,000 females, is down 22% for the 15 to 44 age group. From 2007 to 2024, down 22%. And again, while these fertility rates are down, the number of births increased by roughly 1% between 2023 and 2024. Not enough, folks. Not enough. So, I tell you, where are we winning? If we can't even produce our own society, we can't even keep up with our own demographic, where are we winning? What's the purpose of it all? Well, you have a cell phone to look at all day, or play video games when you come home and don't have a family? So, again, women are delaying to have children, or completely casting it aside, for whatever reasons. Whether they've been thrown in their head that men are all toxic, or masculinity's toxic, or also to be independent. I don't know. Independent boss girl. I don't know. I don't know what to say to this. But the idea that it's stupid to get married and go through motherhood, and that you're somehow a slave while you're going to work for somebody else, or even just working by yourself and generating revenue to pay taxes on, and being alone, it to me is really stupid. We can talk about the loss of religion. We can talk about things like abortion. What's the end result always, though? The country's dying. That's what it will come down to. Again, if we don't take our heads out of the sand here, and I'm saying it as nicely as possible. But the end result, what have they done? What did Joe Biden do the last 4 years? Mass illegal migration in the country. In other words, replacing you with other people. That's what it's come down to. So, folks, we hear these things, we see these things happening in our society, none of which are any good. But we need to make sure we're going out, we're doing what we're supposed to, we're getting married. Now, I know marriage isn't for everybody. I'm not saying it is, but the rates need to go up, is what I'm saying. I'm not saying you need to go out and have kids out of wedlock or anything of the sort. I'm not saying that. But you should get your priorities straight. You should be going out there working for a good paying job. Ben, I'm talking to you specifically. And you should be finding a nice woman that shares your values, and you should be having a family. That's what you should be doing. That's what God tells us all to do, right? Be fruitful and multiply. But the only problem is we're having less and less people going to church now. Although, I will say this, I saw this earlier on Fox. I heard Charlie Kirk say this. He said that more young men are starting to go back to church now. So maybe there is hope yet. Who knows, folks? Maybe there is hope yet. Maybe there's, some survival left in some of these men. Who knows? I hope there is. That's the only thing I can say. All right, moving on. And women, you too. Let's all grow up a little bit. Life's not just one big party. Go out there and have kids, folks. That's what I'm saying to you. All right. Now, let's move on to something really dumb. Let's go back to the culture, right? We're talking about culture now. And again, I saw this on Friday on Fox in the evening. And Laura Ingraham, and I had to shake my head. I can't even believe that some of these things are being touted. But the Democrats are in panic right now. They held their Voters of Tomorrow summit on Friday. And they had Nancy Pelosi speak. Why you'd have Nancy Pelosi speak, I have no idea. Why you'd have Ro Khanna or Kamala Harris being videoed in, I have no idea, to pump people up. But it was a very disgusting display. I don't understand how they're going to invigorate people by having David Hogg, who was just thrown out of the DNC, come up and speak. But it just shows you where the Democrats are. They have according to the Wall Street Journal, they have a 63% unfavorable rating from Democrats. And the Dems are in trouble right now. Even Fox News had a poll. 57% of Democrats say that they're, disgusted with their party. They have an unfavorable rating, an outlook. And that begs the question, what does the Democratic Party stand for? We'll look no further than Zoran Mamdani or AOC or Bernie Sanders. They stand for nothing. They're the party of give us free things. But it got worse. It was really bad. It got worse. You take a listen for yourself. You tell me if this is going to motivate Gen Zers to go out and vote for the Democratic Party. You tell me.
My name is Jess. I go by she, her, they, them pronouns, y'all.
Right now we're in 2025, and obviously we know we're on the brink of climate catastrophe.
Our diversity is our strength.
Okay. Oh, well, there's one little clip here. Listen to this. This is a gentleman an obese gentleman sitting in a panda mask. Like something you put over your head. Yeah, folks, this is the Democratic Party 2025.
What the fuck is up? Let's go! I can't see.
Okay. And, I'm looking at this setup, and there's nobody there. There's nobody there. There's nobody there. Listen to this crap. And there's a obese white guy in a panda mask speaking. It's really, really pathetic. But I think the most pathetic thing at all is this, folks. Take a listen for yourself.
That we must be intentional about lifting up our young leaders and encouraging your ambition. Your generation has grown up on the front lines of so many crises, from COVID and the climate crisis to gun violence and mental health. You know what's at stake, and you are not waiting for someone else to figure it out.
Wow, such inspiring words. She couldn't even show up in person. She had to have it streamed in, probably pre-recorded, I would have to say. Because we know how stupid she is when she's off the cuff and she's live. I mean, my God. Aren't you excited to vote for the Democrats? Hey, you were alive during COVID. Okay, and what are you going to do for us, Democrats? Well, you were also alive during the climate crisis. Mm-hmm. What climate crisis are we experiencing right now, by the way? Are we seeing sea levels rise anywhere? Are we seeing out of the ordinary heat waves going on? Yes, it's summertime, morons. Of course we have heat waves going on. But this whole idea that the climate is, killing us and we have 10 years to live or whatever they try to espouse to us, I mean, people just don't buy it as much anymore. Of course, they try to sell it to us. And the fringe lunatics who really believe in it all go in, to museums. They throw, tomato paste on, very old paintings by, Van Gogh and whomever to make a statement. Or they block traffic, right? These limp wrist males and obese women try to block traffic. And, of course, they get thrown out of the way, of course, as they ought to. But this is their party. This is their party. They have nothing. They have no leadership in this party. Who are they looking to? Hakeem Jeffries? Kamala Harris? Zoran Mamdani? I mean, who are we looking at as a leader? There's nothing there, folks. There's absolutely nothing there in this party. And I really couldn't be any happier about this. I can't stand these people. They're the worst human beings I probably know of. But this is where the Democratic Party is in 2024. They have nobody leading the party. There's no one standing out. Gavin Newsom's desperately trying to become relevant. He's trying to go to South Carolina to shake hands. Meanwhile, if anyone looks at his record or the state of California, as I have over the years, he has absolutely nothing to point to as anything that would indicate that he'd be a successful president at all. Everything this guy has touched has turned to crap. Literally. The city of San Francisco actually had to have a poop map in which you can go online. You could say, I'm standing here in this corner. There is human feces here. And you could put it on an app so that people come and clean up. The whole city had poop all over it. And Ron DeSantis, I got to give him credit. Ron DeSantis had this map and he said, look, this is a real thing. It's a poop map. That's how good Gavin Newsom did running the state of California, of course, San Francisco itself, with his Democratic leadership. And that's what we have to look forward to, folks. Poop maps. I would love to get somebody from, 1900 or even 1950 and say, where do you see San Francisco? And, 70, 80 years from now. I'd love to know what they would think. They could never even fathom what it has become. what the country's become, folks. It's been turned upside down, largely by the Democratic left, or the leftists that seek to destroy it. Let's move on now to this article I have by Paul Craig Roberts. I think it's important that we talk about, again, what's going on globally, of course, when we talk about geopolitics and what's happening in Russia, what's happening in Ukraine, what's happening in the Middle East. But this is really troubling. Donald Trump is giving Putin this ultimatum now. He's trying to reduce the time in which they come to a consensus on how this war should be ending. But he begins by saying the unreality that prevails in Russia is puzzling. It's not just that Putin's inability to comprehend by refusing to win this conflict after 3.5 years has allowed the conflict to widen out of control. Now, Putin is now faced with all of Europe organizing to support the West's proxy, that'd be Ukraine, against Russia by purchasing U.S. weapons and supplying the weapons to Ukraine. So Ukraine doesn't even have to be a part of NATO. All they have to do is come and say, we're going to support Ukraine against Russia and have them lob missiles into Moscow, or St. Petersburg, or wherever. They don't even need leadership status. That's what it's come down to. And Ukraine is on the front line. I think it's a 10-to-1 ratio of whom has died now in this current conflict. Russia has now advanced to the capital of Kiev in central Ukraine, and there's no counteroffensive in this. So the war that Donald Trump said that would end in a day of his presidency, he's now trying to threaten Putin with sanctions and more tariffs, and it's not going to work. It's just simply not going to work, folks. He's trying to do the same with Brazil and India and China, threatening if you trade with Russia, you'll get slapped with these tariffs. So Brazil's come out and said, hey, if you don't want to trade with us, we just simply won't trade with you. This is what they've said. And I told you before, the BRICS nations, all these BRICS nations that are coming together now, their GDP is roughly, I think, 40 or so % of the world GDP. And the U.S. is only about 22, 23%. It's a much bigger force, folks, than we give it credit for. Look at it, I'm just being realistic with you. That's what I do. I give you the facts. But we now have Trump and Germany now trying to signal that they want to attack Moscow with missiles. I don't understand. How are we working for peace here? How are we working for peace? But we're giving them more arms to attack Russia with. Now, of course, Israel wants America at war with Iran. Zelensky wants, who's the de facto president, wants Europe at war with Russia. The Zionist neoconservatives want more color revolutions, set at war with Russia. The CIA wants to weaken BRICS by setting India against China. I mean, it's just all over the place. It's all over the place. Putin himself has done more to guarantee the future conflict by refusing to use sufficient force to end this conflict. This war of attrition now that he sees himself in. He's taking so much time with. Now, Trump has made no real attempt to resolve it. He keeps saying he won't talk to Putin, right? He said he's talked to him on the phone, or he's this and that. But why are we not coming to a resolution here? Why are we not coming to a peace deal to end this conflict? Why can't Trump commit to it? That's what I'm guessing. I can't understand it. What's Marco Rubio doing? They're not doing anything to bring us to peace. They're only talking about bringing more arms to Ukraine to defend itself. Well, that can only work for however long. But I just told you, the ratio of now that's being killed is 10-to-1. That's what it is. I mean, this is not good stuff, folks. This is not good stuff at all. Zelensky himself, he can't even resolve it. He's not even the real president. I mean, folks, his term has ended. He suspended elections in his own country. The Churchillian figure that he is. That's what we were told for so long. How does this end? Does it end? I don't know. Does this keep going on? Does Putin just have to keep going through? I mean, the West has made it perfectly clear it does not want a mutual security agreement with Russia. Look at what we're doing. We're selling now arms to NATO to buy from us, to give to Ukraine. It's so ridiculous. I have to laugh. What else explains Washington's use of this conflict? I mean, to expand NATO into Finland and Sweden now, which was never supposed to expand at all? To militarize Moldova? To stir up more trouble in Soviet Central Asia against Russia? This is what we are trying to do right now. So I ask you, where are the peace negotiations? What do we want? What does Donald Trump want from Vladimir Putin? To end this conflict, to stop giving arms, to tell Europe to stop giving arms to Ukraine. What are we doing here? And to make matters worse, here we go now. This is what Paul Craig Roberts says. He says, another example of the Kremlin insouciance is the announcement last Friday made by Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov. The only way to resolve the Middle Eastern conflict is through a creation of a Palestinian state alongside Israel. Here we go now. So now what? Russia's going to get involved with what's happening in the Middle East now? My God. This is never going to end. So we have the two-state solution, which is, again, being spouted since 1947 for Israel's theft of Palestine. This is, again, Paul Craig Roberts speaking. Every year, Israel steals more of Palestine, and the complicit West says the two-state solution. And I just want to emphasize for just a moment. Many nations in the UN have voted for this. The only ones that seem not to is the U.S. and Israel. Time and time again. But now the Kremlin is still saying, when there is not a building standing left in Gaza, an Israeli government minister that has declared the Israel parliament has in effect annexed tiny remnants of the West Bank. Trump has already claimed Gaza for his own. I don't know how we're doing that either. So where's this Palestine going to go? Well, this is what I asked about. Where's it going to be? Where's it going to go? The Israeli government, in their government declaration, here's what it reads. The creation of a Palestinian state poses a mortal danger to Israel's existence. The Knesset declares that the state of Israel has the natural, historical, and legal right to all parts of the land of Israel. In other words, that Palestine doesn't exist. Palestine simply doesn't exist. It can't exist. It will not exist. And that's why you see this immense bombing. That's why you see the starvation of roughly 2 million people, most of whom are children, by the way. But what more do you see that Russia's disconnected from this whole war itself? I don't understand Putin's position. I don't understand what Donald Trump wants to come to a peace negotiation. Let them annex the Donbass region that is mostly ethnic Russians that speak Russian, that consider themselves Russian. Let them have Crimea, which again has historically been Russia's port in the Black Sea. And let's move on. Why do we need this more bloodshed? How many more Ukrainians need to die? Again, I don't see the purpose of this, folks. I don't see the purpose of this at all. At all. And I don't think this ultimatum that Trump is pushing is going to be effective as well. Trump and Putin need to get together, sit down, and hash this out. That's all that has to happen. Let's see the art of the deal come into full effect here. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see here. All right, folks. I don't have time to go into these other two articles. I'm going to save these for tomorrow. Just what's going on again in the Middle East. So I'm going to save these two, but I'm going to go over this last article as quickly as I possibly... Actually, I don't think I have time for this one as well. Let me stay on this one topic, though, as we close out the show today, then. I'll go over this really quickly with you. And it says here that, this is in the Vatican News, says that the Jewish settlers attack the Tahibi residents in the West Bank. And we never hear about this. We never hear about this ever. It never is brought up. And I always wonder why. It's always silent on the news media. But it says here that violence by Jewish settlers in Palestine, this would be in the West Bank area, has now struck also the residents of Taibe, the only entirely Christian Palestinian village. Taibe is the ancient Ephraim from the location mentioned in the Gospel of John, where Jesus took refuge after the resurrection of Lazarus, and where the Christian community has extremely ancient roots. The village is now home to 3 churches, Latin, Greek Orthodox, and Melkite, whose pastors, and it gives their names, have now issued an appeal last night calling on Israel's authorities to prevent further settler violence, which has so far largely occurred in the presence of passive Israeli soldiers. And it kind of goes on to talk about how they have set fires near this Byzantine Christian cemetery, St. George Cemetery, dating back to the 5th century, one of the oldest, most venerated places of worship for Christians in Palestine. And of course, these arson attacks have followed a series of violence against the Christian residents, the Palestinian Christians here in this region, which again have been escalated in recent weeks. They've seen damage to their olive oil groves, which is one of their primary sources of income, and are preventing farmers from accessing and working on their land. And we also see fires set to homes, to vehicles, to crops. We've seen graffiti threatening people in these regions. And again, what has been done about this? What has been done about this? What has been said about this? Nothing. Nothing has been said about this at all. That's why I'm speaking about this, of course, to let you know that there's this terror that these people, these Christians, our brethren in the Middle East, are experiencing at the behest of these so-called settlers in this region now. Folks, I try to bring this to your attention because no one else is, so you'll stay aware of what's going on. I have more articles on this I'm going to go over with you tomorrow, so we'll return to this, so we're not going to let this just go away. Folks, thanks for listening to the show. Share with some friends. Like, share, subscribe. I appreciate you. Keep your house in order, folks. That's where it begins. Everything starts from the house. And when you do so, that helps sets the country in motion to become a better place. I'll see you tomorrow on the next Marco Dre Show. Until then, be good, stay busy. God bless.